reading is from a marvelous new book called The Healing of America by T. Reed. In 1997, to ignite a debate on the moral basis of American healthcare, Reinhardt wrote an article for the nation's leading medical journal, the Journal of the American Medical Association, posing a simple question. If the child of a rich American family and the child of a poor American family both contract the same illness, should both children have the same chance at being cured? Judging from opinion polls, most Americans, and indeed most doctors, would probably answer yes to that question. But the responses that came into the AMA journal were uniformly negative. Professor Reinhardt is resorting to the effete ploy of class warfare, thundered one physician. Professor Reinhardt's pointed question is socialist propaganda, wrote another. A loaded question complete with ancient propagandistic use of children. Professor Richard Epstein of the University of Chicago Law School offered a direct reply to Reinhardt's question as to whether the rich and the poor should have the same chance to get medical care. The correct answer is no, Epstein wrote. To provide health care for the poor child, he argued, other Americans would have to be taxed to pay for the care. That would generate heated and costly political battles. To open the doors to forced redistribution induces the rich to spend more defending their wealth and the poor to spend more to take it away. Both sides cannot win, and a smaller pie leads to worse health care. Some food for digestion. Will you rise? I open my reflections with a reading from Luke chapter 10. Just then a lawyer stood up to test Jesus. Teacher, he said, what must I do to inherit eternal life? He said to him, what is written in the law? What do you read there? He answered, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. And he said to him, you have given the right answer. Do this, and you will live. But wanting to justify himself, he asked Jesus, and who is my neighbor? Jesus replied, a man was going down from Jerusalem to Jericho and fell into the hands of robbers who stripped him, beat him, and went away, leaving him half dead. Now by chance a priest was going down the road, and when he saw him, he passed by on the other side. So likewise a Levite. When he came to the place and saw him, he passed by on the other side. But a Samaritan, while traveling, came near him. And when he saw him, he was moved with pity. He went to him and bandaged his wounds, having poured oil and wine on them. Then he put him on his own animal, brought him to an inn, and took care of him. The next day he took out 2 denarii and gave them to the innkeeper and said, take care of him, and when I come back I will repay you whatever more you spend. Which of these 3 do you think was a neighbor to the man who fell into the hands of the robbers? He said, the one who showed him mercy. Jesus said, go and do likewise. Any one of 45 million people in our country, about 1 in 7 people, just think how many that is in this room alone, may at one time find themselves lying in the road ailing. And it seems that no good Samaritan is within reach. Their ailments are not exactly the same, but their stories follow a classic arc. James is suffering from mental illness. He had a breakdown at his job and was fired. He lost his health care just at the time when he needed it the most. His friends have told him that something is wrong, and they've encouraged him to meet with a psychologist or psychiatrist, or at least to go see his doctor. He cannot afford the bill for such a visit. He spends his days confused and alone. He does get out at lunchtime. He attends a soup kitchen at the local church, and he gets some nourishment from the soup we help provide. But he cannot seem to find a Samaritan to lift him off the road. Tina is suffering from breast cancer, but she doesn't know it yet. She can feel the lump, she can feel it growing. She works 60 hours a week cleaning homes in our community in order to provide for her 2 children. Once the rent is paid, though, once the food is bought, and once she has bought new clothes for her children, who are growing like weeds, there is nothing left over. There is nothing left over for a doctor's appointment, which would be hundreds of dollars, or scans, which would be thousands of dollars. And so she waits. She hopes it is nothing, maybe just a cyst. When it spreads, and it will, she will be too sick to work. She will be unable to care for her children any longer, or even to care for herself. Finally, her income will be depleted to the point that a kind of twisted form of the Samaritan, he will help. He will offer her his denarii, only this time it won't just be 2 denarii. It may be thousands. It is too late to save her. These children will lose their mother, but now that she is closer to death than one half dead, now that she has nothing left and no chance, help comes. The state will spare no expense to throw all kinds of medicine at her, now that it doesn't matter. This man and this woman are all too familiar. Even here in our county, 125,000 people live between those who have good health care and can afford it through their jobs, and those who qualify for aid through the government. You have met them, and I have met them, and everyone we know has met them. The road they lie on, as I just said, is found right here in Morristown. It's found nearby in Newark. It's found far away in Texas and in California. The road is found in every village, town, and city in the most developed country in the world. Interestingly enough, the road is much harder to find in several other countries, those we consider less developed. In those lands, health care is considered a human right and not an economic commodity. Professor William Schau, a Harvard economist says, before you can set up a health care system for any country, you have to know that country's basic ethical values. The question is, do people in your country have a right to health care? If the people believe that medical care is a basic right, a system is designed where anybody who is sick can see a doctor. What society considers medical care to be an economic commodity, then you set up a system that distributes health care based on the ability to pay. Religions are pretty clear on the answer to this question. Healing is the work that we are called to do in this world. If you interpret healing to be a notion of social justice, like tikkun olam as you would find in Judaism, the call to repair all that is broken in our world, you would recognize that to set any man or woman on the road outside of those who deserve care is immoral. If you are a Christian, the stories of Jesus healing the lame and the sick and exercising his considerable gifts on the least of these provide another example. The